Yo, what is going on, guys? I am back. It is your host and league commissioner, Trent. We have a pretty good episode, man. What a week of playoffs it was this last week. Great first round matchups. And yeah, looking forward to round two. Let's get into it. Let's start off by taking a look at this bracket so far. You see number 5 seed Noah was able to get the win over number 4 seed Greg in a 20-point win. Noah's players just tore it up, and Greg's hasn't gotten over 130 points all season, and continues going to the playoffs, which is crazy. You don't expect to see stuff like that. It has not gotten over 130 points. Really, no really big week for him. I don't know. Usually every team has that one big week. And going into the lower side of the bracket, we have the number 6 seed Brendan just sneaking into the playoffs, was able to pull the upset on Brian. Absolutely ridiculous. That comeback was insane. Brian thought I don't think that he thought he had it, but he thought he had a pretty good shot. And all this talk about Adams and Kamara taking over the playoffs is no longer. And he will be meeting Greg for these next 2 weeks to decide who gets that 5th, 6th place spot. So that'll definitely be interesting. Brian should have it, though. I mean, Greg hasn't scored over 130 points all season, so I mean, take a lot of luck to get that 5th place spot for Greg. Now it's time to get into your bums of the week. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we got Giovanni Bernard. And man, look at that mustache. Absolutely insane, man. That's what I'm trying to get right there. And yeah, crazy mustache. But anyways, he sucked butt last week. And 3.3 points was not enough to get the job done, as Daniel lost by 14. Now Daniel moves to one loss away from being in the last place game of the playoffs. And yeah, no, 8 yards and a fumble on 10, or not 10 attempts, but 3 attempts for Giovanni Bernard, only 8 yards, and he fumbled. So, I mean, the fumble brought him back. He had some catches, would have finished with 5. If 5 points if he didn't have that fumble. Still not enough to get Daniel the win this last week in such a close game. I believe it was like 14 points to Levi, who had a pretty solid week. Just did not help Daniel out at all. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we got James Conner. What a game from James Conner. Just kidding. Brendan was able to get the dub. But no thanks to James Conner. James Conner logged in 10 attempts for only 18 yards for only 1.8 fantasy points. Almost cost Brendan a shot at the victory over Brian. But fortunately enough for Brendan, his 3 Monday night players were able to get the job done and complete the comeback. No thanks to James Conner. And at the number 1 spot on your week 14 bums, we got Deontay Johnson. Now, he did score more than both of those last 2 players, but I'll tell you why he is the number 1 bum of the week. He pretty much cost Brian a shot in the semifinals. He had 8 points, but he did get benched in the first half because of multiple dropped passes. And Mike Tomlin did say after the last game, if the receivers don't want to catch the ball, they'll be replaced with people who will. And yeah, no, as you can tell where I'm going with this story, Deontay Johnson dropped a couple of passes and got benched. And if he didn't get benched, if he didn't get benched, that means he would have caught those passes. Which, in a 2-point loss in the playoffs, could have gotten Brian the dub, for sure. And that is why he is your top bum of the week. Now it's time to get into your week 14 studs. Coming in at number 3, we have T.Y. Hilton. Big game for Levi, as he was able to get the victory over Daniel in the first round of playoffs. And now he moves with one more victory left to avoid the last place game and the Clay Award. That's what we should call it. We're going to call it the Clay Award for getting last place. But T.Y. Hilton, 5 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. These last 2 weeks for T.Y. Hilton have been absolutely amazing for him. and he definitely helped Levi get the win this last week. At the number 2 spot, we got a tie. We got Nick Chubb and Justin Tucker for Brendan. And those two played a key part in the reason Brendan was able to move on here in the playoffs. And Nick Chubb got it started, pretty much tore the Ravens up all game. And then Justin Tucker finished it off with a 55-yard field goal. Brendan down by 4 points. And hitting the game-winning field goal for the Ravens and for Brendan. And that's the kind of stuff you play fantasy for, man. Those endings are exciting. If you're the team that's going to win, of course. But absolutely heartbreaking if you're the team losing. And those two definitely got the job done for Brendan this week. And at the number 1 spot, we got Stefon Diggs. And yeah, I use this picture of him in a Vikings uniform just to troll Noah because he is a Saints fan. And 29.1 points for Stefon Diggs, 10 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. And he has been clutch all season, shows up when Noah needs him the most. And Stefon Diggs' big game against the Steelers was the reason why he was able to break away from Greg and pretty much leave Greg helpless going into Monday night with only one player left. And he's just been amazing all season long, and it's the reason why he is the number 3 wide receiver in fantasy. Time to get to some playoff matchups. I will have the playoffs next week because the last place game will be decided, and the 7th, 8th place game will also be decided. So, and the 3rd, 4th place game as well. So let's get into these playoff matchups. Starting off, we got number 6 Brendan versus number 2 Trent, aka me. And head-to-head records very close over these last 5 years. It has been 6, but I chose the wrong league type the first year and wasn't able to transfer all the data over. So I have no idea what happened that season in terms of who won and who lost. All I know is I won the championship that year. But anyways, head-to-head records: Brendan 5-6, or I should say I'm 6-5 against Brendan. Either way, it's pretty close. We've been going at each other for a while now, and our most recent playoff matchup, which was in 2018, I was able to get the win and secure the championship. And then top scorers for each team. For Brendan, we have Deshaun Watson again, with more points than last week, of course. He's at 293.34 now. And then if you look at my side, Tyreek Hill is my highest scorer with 301 points. Once again, thank you, Andrew. Most points this season for Brendan, still 144.18. And then for me, 185.4, which happened to be in the first week of the season, so I guess it has been pretty much all downhill from there. And then average points for Brendan went up a little bit after last week, 115.9 now for Brendan. I think he had like a 0.72 increase after last week. And then average points a game for me, 131.8. And it's definitely going to be a closer one than I think it should be. Just because Brendan's team can get hot at any moment, and he's got those stud running backs. And I can't bet against myself, so obviously I'm going to pick myself to win this game. I think it's going to be like 145 to probably like 135. Let's do that. But it should be closer. It's definitely going to be a tough one, depending on if my players show up or not. I'm definitely going to need Aaron Jones to step up. I think that's probably the player to watch on my side. And then for Brendan, it's probably got to be Nick Chubb again. I mean, this matchup's probably going to come down to Sunday night. And if Nick Chubb can have a great game again, like he did last week, Brendan could steal another victory in the playoffs and pull off another upset. And if he does that, then he has a chance at another second place, which we know he all loves. So it's definitely going to be a crazy game, and it should be a good one. And I predict I'm going to win 145 to 135. So I can't bet against myself. It just doesn't make any sense. So, got to pick myself to win. And let's get started with this other playoff matchup that we have. Other semifinals matchup. Winner gets to go to the championship. And speaking of championship games, James was in the championship last year. Ended up losing to Daniel, thanks to the 50-something yard run by Aaron Jones to secure Daniel the championship. But we got number 5 Noah versus number 1 James, and if you look right here at the head-to-head, James has had Noah's number since they first met up. This is James' third year, so I believe 2018 is when they first met, and James is 4-1 against Noah since then. So this should be a good one. Noah has a really good squad, and his top scorer is Ryan Tannehill still. 262.56 points now. And then you look at James, of course, it's Patrick Mahomes at 329.32 fantasy points. I believe he's the number 1 scorer in fantasy right now in our league. So it's definitely doesn't look like he's rolling with Patrick Mahomes, though, this week. It looks like he's going with Josh Allen. Most points for Noah this season is 167.62. And then you look at James' side, highest score of the season for any team, 196.54. And you look at their averages, I believe James has the most points, so I believe he's averaging the most out of any other team in the league with 136.96 fantasy points per game. And then you look at Noah's side, 123.3. I believe his might have went up. I'm not sure. But definitely player you got to watch for Noah this week is Austin Eckler. He was questionable going into Thursday, but it looks like he is playing. And if he can get about 10 catches, which is pretty good for running back, but pretty normal for a guy like Austin Eckler, he could do some real damage against the Raiders defense, who has not been too good this season. And then you look at James. I mean, let's talk about Tyler Lockett, because ever since that 53-point game, he's had one game over 20 points. And the rest have been under 15. So I think Tyler Lockett's going to definitely be a player you need to watch for James' side. And also Keenan Allen might not play on Thursday, so it's definitely going to be tough. And I may be a maniac here, but I'm going to go Noah, 155 to 138. I think Noah pulls off the upset and gets himself in the championship game. And I just think Noah's receivers are going to be too much. I know James has good receivers, but, I mean, outside of Keenan Allen, they haven't really been consistent. You got Cooper Kupp and Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett had a good start to the season, but since that big game he had, nothing. Honestly, nothing. And I think Noah does pull the upset here. Noah has a pretty solid squad. And that is definitely going to be the game to watch this weekend. Alright guys, that does it for this week's video. Next week I will have the award polls out so you guys can vote on the awards for this season. And then I will also have breakdowns for the last week of the season for every game that we have going on. Don't want anybody to feel left out, especially the playoff teams. So I will definitely have that for you guys, and breaking down what place I think everyone's going to get. And it should be interesting to see who is going to be the playoff champion this year. And I don't mean winning the consolation ladder. I mean losing and being in last place and gets the Clay Award. That's definitely going to be interesting because Dakota's team hasn't really been doing that good this season. And he could be in line for his second straight, not straight, but his second Clay Award. So hopefully that happens. 2 championships and then 2 Clay Awards. Not looking good for your resume, Dakota. Along with 3 straight, not in playoff years. So next week, definitely going to have the award polls up and break down the last week of the season for every game that we have. Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, keep on grinding. I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.